I think we're in, guys.
Hello, United Nations. I hope our internet connection is okay. Thank you for taking our time to answer our Skype call. I'm here today with our team to bring forth an issue we're currently having with cholera, which is currently plaguing the Ganges River Basin in India. The most affected group is mainly women because of the traditional role they play as a housewife. They partake in majority of the chores, which makes them the most susceptible to exposure to the Ganges River. First and foremost, this is Karishma. She is a doctor who has been helping with the conduction of the research. Next, I have Monica here. She is a pathologist. She studies the microbiology of the disease, and she'll explain the symptoms and basically everything about the disease. Next, this is Erin. She is the epidemiologist. She provides the statistics about the disease. And lastly, we have Maxine. She is the activist who is one of our success stories. And of course, I'm Shane. I'm a United Nations representative.
Just to break it down for you, there's about 1 million diagnoses in the Ganges River annually regarding cholera. And also the endemics occur at least twice a year, which is extremely high. It remains highly prevalent in Ganges River today with about 4 per 1,000 people affected every single day. An estimated 2.8 million cholera cases occur each year in endemic countries, and unfortunately the Ganges River is a part of those. There are many factors associated with the high number of incident and prevalence rates regarding cholera outbreaks in the river. Two of those would be, one of those would actually be environmental, so that's going to be sanitation and water. The second one's going to be in infrastructure. That's going to be low socioeconomic status, where you're living, how you're living, individual factors. Those are all going to play a sense in that as well. 33 cases of cholera identified among families exposed to washing clothes or bathing in the Ganges River, while no cholera cases were amongst people that were unexposed to those. Other exposure factors such as lack of sewage and toilets at residence, children, and outdoors is also an association with the disease outcome. With environmental as well, low rainfall and high humidity play a huge part in this outbreak as well. By the age of 15, over half the population of the river has evidence of previous cholera infections. And also, historically, the mortality rate of the cholera actually exceeded by 50% as opposed to declining, and remains as high as 5 to 10% in recent outbreaks, whereas you would assume with all the research done that it would be declining, but actually it's increasing.
Do you mind holding up just a few images just so that I can have some images there? Alright, so I'll be talking about the microbiology of cholera. I'm going to start off by doing a brief overview of the digestive system. So this is the stomach, small intestine, and large intestine, as you can see. The red lining represents a mucus layer, so the stomach does have mucus layers, whereas the small intestine do not. This is because the stomach is primarily used for digesting, and the small intestine is for nutrient uptake. When HCO3 is released, this creates a more basic environment, and that's an environment that cholera really thrives out of. So in the small intestine, where there is no mucus layer and a lower pH, is where the mucus release, or where the cholera bacteria really survives. So this is a little brief diagram of a cholera bacteria. So Vibrio cholera is the full name. So it's a rod-like with a little flagellum. And you can go on to the next page now. So this is just a basic diagram of the cholera bacteria. And so what we're going to focus on is this red part right here. This is the O group. So there's more than 150, and these are called serogroups. 2 of these 150 can cause epidemics, and only 1 is found in the Ganges River, which is serogroup 01. And this is the outermost layer of the flagellum, my apologies, the cholera. So now to do the steps in detail of how the cholera bacteria of Vibrio cholera infects a human being. You can go to the next page here. So the black is going to be a portion of the small intestine. So first, the Vibrio cholera, as it's been mentioned, or will be mentioned, it enters through the mouth. And so it enters through your stomach and then gets into your small intestine. GBPA causes the Vibrio cholera to adhere to the epithelial wall. So that's kind of displayed right here by the red little dots. And the TCP is released to cause microcolonies to form. So this is when a bunch of the Vibrio cholerae stick together, in the simplest explanation. Via type 2 secretion, cholera toxin is released. So we can actually go to the next page here.
Sorry.
No worries. So this is, the blue is a single Vibrio cholerae, and this is a cholera toxin. So it's 5 B subunits surrounding one single A unit. And we can flip one more. And we're gonna go like this. Awesome. So this is an epithelial wall. So the small intestine is right down here, and so basically, the B subunits will bind to oligosaccharides of GM1, which are these two structures right over here. As this happens, the A subunit is released into the epithelial cell, and disulfide bonds break, and this separates into A1 and A2 subunits of the A subunit. A1 is what we're going to be focusing on because that's what really causes cholera. I'm going to get this one more time. So this is almost like a shot down image. So A1 increases adenylate cyclase activity, and this causes a bunch of reactions to trigger into a cascade. In conclusion, this turns ATP into CAMP, and CAMP causes ion channels to open, allowing an influx of sodium, water, chlorine ions, potassium ions, all into the lumen, which is right up here. And this immediate and very drastic influx of ions and water is what causes the ricey textured diarrhea. So that is just a very basic overview of how cholera forms in humans.
Hey guys, sorry I'm in my lab. Me and Monica were just in the lab, and I'd like to thank Monica for the breakdown on the microbiology of cholera. So now I'll inform you guys on how cholera is transmitted and the causes behind it and the symptoms that patients have. So cholera is a waterborne infectious disease in India, and it's in contaminated water of the Ganges River that may lead to cholera and other infectious diseases. Cholera can be caused from bathing in the Ganges River. Millions of people bathe in one spot, so they have very little concern about the pollution in the Ganges River. Soaps and shampoos, garbage, and discarded clothing, plastics, and sometimes even urine are in the river. Therefore, industrial effluents and sewage are not to be blamed alone for the water quality of the degradation of the river. So water samples from the Ganges River contain fecal coliforms, which show the frightening levels of fecal contamination. And some of the risk factors include the availability of toilet facilities and bathing practices, source of household water, water treatment, storage practices in home, household connection to sewage collection line or septic tank, laundry practices, kitchen utensil cleaning practices, cleaning agents used, children's play areas, conditions of the sewer and sewer structure surrounding the household. Many Indian residents depend on the Ganges River daily for their needs. This leads to very high incidence rates of waterborne diseases among residents of India. Activity in the river can be expected to expose users directly to bacteria and infectious agents present due to regular and widespread discharge of untreated sewage in the river. Users in turn carry home washed clothing and utensils, which are an exposure risk for other family members. Users of the Ganges River may become sick with waterborne disease, which would be cholera, and in turn transmit the disease to other family members living in close quarters. So the symptoms of cholera are the highest number of patients diagnosed with cholera had abdominal pain, as well as patients suffering with severe diarrhea and nausea, in addition to vomiting with the abdominal pain. Moreover, individuals were in a lot of discomfort due to high-grade fever and skin problems, such as rashes and itching. Some ways that we can prevent this are protecting the public health from the spread of cholera starts with increasing the water quality of the river, strictly regulating bathing in the river along with consecutive disinfection and at the upstream bathing spot is strongly recommended. Moreover, a comprehensive health-based investigation should be performed to facilitate the development of a suitable model. Proper legislative through legislative efforts, including chlorination of water, and to educate the bathers can improve bathing conditions, reduce the pollution load on the river and the water, and minimize the health risks. Okay. A simple, inexpensive practice of filtering water through cloth is used by many Indians to remove plankton of the harboring bacteria of cholera from the river water before the water is used for drinking or cooking. The incidence of cholera can be reduced by about 1/2 through such a simple filtration procedure. With the help of your funding, we can use prevention strategies such as increasing the education and investing in reusable filters and soap to decrease the prevalence of cholera and eventually only have what is completely filtered and clean.
All right. Hello, one and all. I would like to thank you all, including Shing, for allowing me the honor of your presence. Obviously, I'm from India, and women technically don't have a very big political presence there. Out of the 28 Indian states, about 3 of them have female chief ministers, and only about 8% of the seats in parliament are actually filled with female representatives. In India, they tend to define women traditionally by the traditional prescribed function as kind of wife and mothers. So they do most of the cleaning and cooking and are influenced by the Ganges daily. I come from the city of Varanasi, a city in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, and it's kind of a city that runs off of the paradox that the river is our livelihood, but it's also our death. About 90% of us bathe or drink in the river, and the rest of us seem to have a spiritual connection to it because of the Hindi belief that it can wash us clean of our sins. And because of this, our entire lives are dictated by the river, and it's kind of impossible for us to disconnect ourselves from its use. As Karishna said, the rates of illness are kind of seen as being directly proportional to the ratio of how much pollution is in the river at once. And since females are consistently in the river for drinking, bathing, and cleaning of all the supplies, there is a massive amount of prevalence in the female population. And really the only way that you can actually target this is through cleaning of supplies through proper sanitation, cleaning of hands after being in the river and exposure, stopping pollution from being dumped into the river, and proper education of females and males around the river basin. There's only about 65% of females who actually know that the river is polluted, and about 82% of males do. So although that is an issue for both genders, it is really important that there is a push for gender equality, especially in water politics today. So really the true value of what these guys are doing is putting the situation into perspective, and they give itemized aid that, such as a care package of a water filter, soap, and other sanitation supplies, and then they educate me as to how and when to use them. I truly do believe that we can see a major decrease in incidence of cholera with these guys' help, as well as yours.
As Karishma and Monica have explained, water is an essential part of our life. It is a finite resource without an alternative. These water-related diseases are caused by unsafe drinking water and an absence of proper sanitation facilities. Although education is going to be a huge part of cutting down on the prevalence rates of cholera, we need your help. In order to properly implement our preventative strategies, we are going to be setting up these sample of prevention kits. And the main issue right now is that in 1977, we actually held a conference in Argentina. And this was the first time where we had a global conference where we devoted fully to water resources. We concluded that all people, whatever their stage of development and their social and economic conditions, have the right to have access to drinking waters of quantities and of quality equal to their basic needs. It is therefore our duty to ensure that they have this basic right of all human beings to have access to clean water and sanitation at an affordable price. In order to do so, we are also going to need your help to change your policies, because currently countries are still responsible for the quality and quantity of water that they are able to provide, but the loophole is that this is based on the amount of resources that they have. Unfortunately, not all countries are equal in wealth. So we are going to need your help to change policies and provide us with funding so that we can provide them with the proper preventative kits and strategies. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I can't know that you didn't help me there,
Hey
but
guys, also cholera.
Cholera.
Let's go!